Welcome to the BMW blog channel. Has been a while since we've come to Europe to test drive a new car, but today is the day and we are in Munich. As a matter of fact, we're actually outside Munich right now near the Dingolfing plant where BMW is building this new car. So what do we have here? This is the BMW iX electric crossover. The car has been in the making for the last 6 years, and we've seen plenty of photos, we've seen some videos, but now it's time to actually drive the car. Earlier today, you saw my introduction video with one of the product experts, and we've talked about some of the design features, some of the tech inside the car, but now it's time to talk about the driving experience. Before we do that, let's talk about the specs. So I'm driving the BMW iX xDrive50. This is the middle model of the new iX family. There is an xDrive50, that's the entry one, and of course the iX M60. That's an M performance car which will be unveiled in January, and we'll have the chance to drive that car in the future as well. So for now, let's focus on this one. The iX xDrive50 makes about 523 horsepower. It's got 765 Newton meters of torque, which translates into about 565 pounds-feet of torque. So a lot of torque. And as you know, in any electric car, it is available from the moment you step on that gas pedal or the accelerator. Performance-wise, BMW claims 0 to 100 kilometers per hour, so that's 0 to 62 miles per hour for those of you in the US in about 4.6 seconds. First and foremost, the BMW iX, it's built on its own architecture, on its own platform. It is not shared with any other model, and interestingly enough, this is the only car that's going to be built on that platform. So if you think back about 10, 12 years when the BMW i3 was announced, it was kind of a similar thing. It had its own architecture, it was all carbon fiber, and there was only one model built on that platform. So now BMW chose the iX as their flagship electric vehicle, and it has all the latest and greatest technology that's available in Munich today. So why is it important to have a dedicated electric platform or an electric-centric platform, however you want to call it? First and foremost, because it gives you the advantage to package the car in a better way. There are no compromises when it comes to interior design. You have a lot more space than in a conventional car because you don't have to accommodate a series of different models. So for example, the i4, it's built on a shared platform. So you have the i4, which is electric and which we will be driving actually tomorrow. We're going to talk about that in the next video. And you have the combustion engines, diesel, gasoline, and some of the cars like the 3 Series also has a plug-in hybrid. So with that, there are quite a few compromises when it comes to space because you need to accommodate for all those combustion engines and drivetrains and transmission tunnels and so on and so forth. With this one, you don't. So it's similar to the i3. From the moment that I stepped inside, I noticed how much roomier it is than, let's say, an X5. Even though it's similar in size, there is a lot more room inside this car. So if you're looking for a family electric crossover and you're debating between, let's say, an X5 plug-in hybrid because you still want to drive electric, then you will notice when you go into the iX that you have a lot more room. So if you're looking for more space, this is definitely in the car to have. So that's a quick comparison to the X5. Clearly, we're only comparing them because it's similar size, and according to BMW, they're kind of priced in a similar way, has a similar price point. So the choice in the end will be yours. It's not going to be determined by the money factor. A little bit about the car inside. You've seen the previous video, but I can mention a few other interesting things. As you can see here, there is a new type of steering wheel, an interesting shape. I believe it's hexagonal. I mean, it's got all this, flat surfaces, and it just feels great to actually drive with it. I noticed that immediately when I started to roll with the car, that I just enjoy holding this steering wheel. I actually wouldn't mind seeing this in an M car, for example. Speaking of the steering wheel, feedback, great feedback from the car. You can actually, as you can see here, you can do a little bit of a dance on the road. It's quite responsive, and if you're looking for that feel from the road, you will definitely get it in the iX. Now let's talk about the performance. So acceleration, as you would expect from an electric car, it is quite impressive. You just floor that acceleration pedal and the car just pulls really, really hard. The other thing that I've noticed, it's got this carpet kind of ride feel. So if you're familiar with the Rolls-Royce Magic Carpet, this one might not be as magic as the Rolls-Royce, but it's quite good. And I took some photos and videos, and you're gonna see that in the B-roll, where basically there is a thick layer of padding in between the battery pack and the chassis, and that gives the car that really comfortable, drive. You can roll over, imperfect pavement, and you're not going to feel it. Speaking of the chassis a little bit, it's not fully carbon fiber like the i3, mainly because that was an extremely expensive project. I believe BMW spent anywhere from $2 to $3 billion, or euros actually, on the i3 and i8 platforms. So in this case, this one, it's a combination of steel, aluminum, but it's still got a lot of carbon inserted in certain areas. So I would say it's kind of similar like the 7 Series carbon core. And the idea there is really save some weight where you can without having to break the bank. You can see here the center console has been simplified. There is not a lot going on. Some people like that, some don't. Clearly there are not that many physical buttons, and that's one thing that people have complained about this car already, because they took away the presets from here and they moved them into this large screen. That's an idea that BMW has likely seen from other automakers. Everyone is going towards a minimalistic look, and that's kind of what they wanted to achieve as well. So it's either you love it or hate it. That's entirely up to you. I haven't had a chance to really play around with that and see how much it affects how much it affects the usability, basically not having those pre-programmed physical buttons here. Center console, pretty simple. Even the shifter, you don't have your typical BMW shifter. It's really just this little tiny, it's crystal, similar to what you've seen in other BMWs, like the crystal packages. And it's just a simple knob, move up and down, and basically that's how you change the gears. You can also see here this iDrive controller, slimmer than ever, quite small. It's an optional one, so this is part of the, there's a special package. I'm not sure if it's called glass or something else, but it's a special package that comes with this, Swarovski kind of crystals, and that applies to the door as well. There's some controls on the door, and they're made out of the same high quality crystals. Speaking of the door controls, most of the controls have moved now onto the door panel, so the seat adjustments are now integrated into the doors. Also the pre-programmed or the memory buttons are there as well. You also have the open and close button is right there. Quite interesting. When I stepped inside, it took me a few seconds to get adjusted to the new layout. But once you do, it's quite intuitive. It's right there next to your hand, and it's the same thing for the passenger. Moving on to the center console, you see here it looks like a single piece LCD screen, but they're actually two screens and they're connected, but it does form a single piece of a screen, and there is a lot of information that can flow from one side to the next one, which is quite cool. Actually, you can transfer even the navigation view from here, which is the first, onto the dashboard in front of you or behind the steering wheel. The sound that you just heard, it's actually there is an alert that I came to a stop sign and I need to stop. So I think the car realized that I'm not stopping in time, and it saw the stop sign and then it said you need to stop, which is great. Let's talk about the electric range, right? That's quite important. That's one aspect that people really care about when it comes to electric cars. So according to the WLTP, which is the European regulatory body that measures the range and all of that, it has about 630 kilometers of range, which is quite impressive. I believe the EPA rating top of my mind, I think it's 307 miles. And of course, that's considering best case scenario. So, you know, the right temperature outside, the right battery temperature, and so on and so forth. In my experience with electric cars, I've owned several BMW i3s, clearly very different cars. If you live in a very cold climate, then you're likely to use anywhere from 10 to 20% of your range once you start using, you know, the heat and all of that. Even though the heating system in this car, it's far more efficient than the one that I have in my i3 range extender. One thing I haven't mentioned, it's really the battery capacity. BMW says that the iX50 has a gross capacity of 111 kilowatt hours, and that gives you a net capacity of about 105 kilowatt hours. Of course, that has an impact on the charging rate. It has 200 kilowatts of charging rate, and you know, just to simplify it, if you want to charge from 0 to about 80%, that should be achievable in about 35 minutes. So that's significantly faster than you would charge in any other BMW today, including the i3 or the iX3. And the idea here is really that you don't always need to charge fully or even to 80%. You can use that 200 kilowatts capacity to just snack charge. That's an interesting and kind of strange term, but if you have access to a good charging network in some areas, some countries, some regions, it's possible. Then you could essentially just stop for 10 minutes, you know, snack charge 10, 20, 30 miles, and then just keep on going. Price-wise, for this particular car in the US, it's around $85,000, which puts it into the Tesla Model Y territory, and that was probably done on purpose. So now if you're looking for a high-end premium SUV, you have the option to pick the iX, which is similarly priced as the Model Y, some of the Model Ys. And of course, you know, and that's arguable. Some people say that you're getting better quality in a BMW. Yes, you know, some other customers don't even care about that. They're just into the particular brand. So in the end, it's really your choice. When it comes to the material and finishes, since we mentioned the premium quality, you're definitely getting that in the iX. So starting with this nice suede, it's actually microfiber, and it's extremely smooth to touch. It looks premium, it looks luxurious. It's also nicely paired with this wood up here. You're also getting this microfiber on the dashboard as well. The other cool thing about this car, it's the Bowers and Wilkins audio system. BMW and Bowers and Wilkins, of course, they say this is the most powerful system in a BMW today. I've had a chance to actually test this out with the product manager, and you've seen that video a little bit earlier today. So worth checking that out. Now to the driving experience. In the default mode, the car goes into an adaptive drive when it comes to the regen mode. And this one has actually two regeneration modes, adaptive and the B mode, which they call it the B mode, which is really the one paddle feel that you know from the i3 or maybe from some other electric cars. In the B mode or the one paddle mode, you do have the option to adjust the intensity of the regeneration. So you can go from like coasting to being more aggressive. That's really just based on your preference. If you're not used to electric cars, I do suggest to use the adaptive mode. It will pick the best setting for you based on different parameters. So I'm actually going to switch now to the B mode or the one paddle feel mode. All you have to do is just pull down on this little shifter here, lever. And right now I'm on the B mode for the brake regeneration. And you might not notice, but the moment that it's in the most aggressive setting, so it will brake quite hard. Some people get motion sickness from it, so if that's the case, you can either adjust that mode or you can use the adaptive. There is a lot of information behind that. Of course, the impact there is that you're regenerating more or less energy, so if you want to be super efficient, then probably it's best to use the one paddle, you know, in the highest setting. If you just want to have a normal ride and not feel like you're in an electric car, then you can go with the adaptive. It's a big car. There is no way around that, even though it's got a nice weight distribution thanks to the battery pack, which is embedded into the floor. Battery pack, it's made by BMW. The cells are made by other OEM or other companies, but BMW actually works with them to create cells to their spec, and therefore they have this flat floor right now. It's a kind of like a square rectangular package, and that's embedded into the bottom of the car. That helps with the the weight distribution, and of course with the driving dynamics as well. Also, when it comes to the efficiency of the car, I will take a look at the data as soon as I get back to the final destination, and I will see the exact consumption, and the efficiency that I managed to achieve. But I don't expect much considering how I drove the car. I was actually going to top speed on the Autobahn almost all the time. I also probably pushed the car a lot more than any regular customer would. So the idea was to really kind of, test a little bit of the driving dynamics. But if I were to drive in a normal mode, I will definitely achieve a lot better efficiency. Of course, when it comes to electric car, there are a lot of tricks that you can do to sometimes, increase the efficiency or increase the range. Like you can completely turn off the AC, especially if it's nice outside, and open the windows. In the winter time, if you're an electric, car guy, then you know that sometimes you layer your clothes quite a bit, and even wear gloves in the car just so you can achieve a higher efficiency rate and get a lot more miles out of your car. But that's not something that I recommend. It's just some people tend to do that. So overall, if you were to test it with another car, we will have to probably do a similar route and see which one is the more efficient one. That's kind of what it comes down to. Sometimes it's not just about the range, but the actual efficiency. Of course, another big deal in the electric world, it's really the infrastructure, and that's one thing that I always talk about. It's really not about how much range you're getting out of a single charge, but it's really how often you can charge the car, how convenient, are there enough places for fast charging, can you charge it at home? So that's going to play a huge role in the adoption of not just the iX, but also in the adoption of any electric car. Because if you live on the West Coast in the US, then you're okay. There are plenty of regular charging stations. There are definitely a lot of fast chargers, so you're kind of covered. There are also a lot of workplaces that now have level 2, level 3 charging, so that's okay as well. But if you live in other areas like the Midwest and maybe the South, or maybe some areas where it's very rural and there are not a lot of cities, then charging could become a problem. And that's exactly what I'm hoping that the car companies will manage to do, to push the authorities, to push the local governments, the federal, to just invest into the infrastructure, because if you don't have that, it's going to be a hassle to own an electric car. Of course, if you have a house and you can charge at home, there is absolutely no issue. You can leave it overnight. It's more than enough to get you plenty of range over the next few days, considering you have a normal commute. There are always exceptions, and there are always use cases that you can really cover with an electric car. But absolutely, the infrastructure, it's a big deal, and I'm truly hoping that that's going to expand, to evolve a lot faster. I'm also hoping that all these networks will kind of find a common platform where they can kind of integrate with each other when it comes to payments and charging. I would love to see all these networks having a single payment processor that could be integrated into the My BMW app. So now I don't have to use this card from this company, or use this key from the other one, or use this app. I just want to be able to integrate that into my BMW app or whatever other app or other company, and just be able to pay with a single card. So that's just a pet peeve of mine. But clearly, the more important thing is really access to charging, being regular charging, but especially fast charging, and especially having fast charging along autobahns and highways, where you can just stop, snack charge, and keep on going. So that will be a huge factor in the adoption of electric cars, and of course that will be a huge factor for the iX, which I expect to sell extremely well in certain markets. Clearly, Norway, it's a leader. Also, the West Coast will do quite well, but there might be some regions where it will not pick up steam immediately. It might take time to get there, based on what I've just mentioned earlier. I've been driving on the highway, on the Autobahn, and also on some back roads around here. So let me start with the Autobahn. You're getting basically a lot of speed immediately when you floor that gas pedal. Yes, again, that name, gas pedal, the acceleration. You can easily overtake cars. It is extremely fast, extremely quick. You can feel that torque instantly. It just kind of just puts you back in the seat, and it really makes me wonder how the iX M60 will actually feel, because that car has over 600 horsepower, so probably about 100 horsepower more than this one, a lot more torque, and it's just quicker. So if this one feels that fast, then that one should be a beast to drive. It's also an M-tune car, so there will be a lot more M bits in there as well. But enough about that, let's just focus on the xDrive50. So again, Autobahn driving, it's also a very smooth ride, very comfortable. So it's still a heavy car, and if you go to some of those curvy roads and you try to have some fun, you will get a lot of body roll. I'm not sure how it feels from the back seat. You might get some motion sickness there, but in the front it just feels great. You're able to confidently attack those corners. It is not an M car, it is not a sports car, but if you do want to push the car, it will listen to you. It does not understeer. The steering feedback, it's okay. I mean, you're getting decent feedback from the road in this, and the car, if you point the car in the right direction, it will just follow it. You can also adjust that a little bit with the gas pedal again. So I actually love that. I was actually flooring the car to some of those curves, and I was using the most aggressive brake regeneration mode. I didn't really have to brake on my own too much. So what if you were to compare this to, let's say, the X5, right? So the cars are similar in size. The X5 45V, it's arguably one of my favorite X models. It's the perfect balance in between, power, really good fuel consumption. You're getting also some sort of an electric range there. So if I were to look at this car and a comparable X5 in price, then I would absolutely pick the iX over that. It's a new tech, it's the future. The packaging, it's far better as far as the interior. It has a lot more room on the inside. The only downside compared to the X5, from what I just learned today, the trunk gets about 500 and something liters here capacity versus 600 in the X5. But of course you can lower the rear bench and you're getting additional space there. So if that's an issue, I just wanted to point it out. Driving experience, absolutely different in between an electric car and combustion. I don't think I need to spend too much time on that. But if you're looking for a family crossover, and especially an electric one, then I would say put the iX at the top of your list when it comes to BMW and maybe to other brands as well. The car is also quite intelligent. It has a level 2 driving assistance package, so a little bit more advanced than what you have in other newer BMWs like the 7 Series or the X7. I haven't really dug too much into it to see exactly what's different, but you have the same kind of features. There is also another cool thing, which is called Iconic Sound. So it's not available in the regular driving mode. And speaking of that, I can go to my modes on here, and right now there are 3 options. Personal, which I did not configure at all, so whatever BMW has set for me or whatever the default is, it's that. It says active, then there is a sport, and of course there is an efficient mode. So let's switch to sport mode, and the moment you do this, you can hear a new sound. So BMW wanted to still give you that combustion engine sound, and I had a chance to floor the car, and you're getting kind of like a VA sound. It's not as loud as you will get in a regular car. Clearly that one has some fake sound in the cabin as well, but if you go fast, you will actually get that interesting combustion engine sound. So if you're into that, then you can definitely switch to that mode and still have that old school feel of a combustion engine. According to BMW, there will be a lot more iconic sounds coming out. They're being composed by Oscar winner Hans Zimmer, and there is a BMW composer as well, Renzo Vitale, and they're both working on some exciting packages for regular I cars, but also for, you know, M-tuned and maybe even M-future cars. But there is a lot more to the sport mode than just the sound, right? So I can feel immediately the car being sharper, so the acceleration becomes a little bit sharper than in the regular mode. So the moment that I floor, I feel like I'm getting a lot more power. So there's probably a power boost there. I don't exactly remember the details, but the car just runs a little bit quicker than it would in the regular mode. Also, the suspension seems to stiffen up a little bit. So even when I floor the paddle, it seems to be a little bit more stable in corners. So it feels like I'm just getting a little less, you know, body roll. Just a few fun facts about the iX, in case you haven't really read much about the car. There is no frunk, which stands for a front trunk. It's something that the BMW i3 has. I've had 4 of them, never really used it, mostly because it was not waterproof. So that was causing some issues with things stored there. But this one does not have. I did pose the question to BMW, and they said that because of the packaging and the way that things were implemented with the car and the chassis, there was really no physical space to have a frunk in the front. Some people find that useful to have it, especially for safety reasons. If you want to store something that, you know, people might steal out of the trunk but not out of the frunk. So that's one reason why people want that. Others for just convenience of opening that quickly and using that storage space. Not a big deal for me, but just wanted to point that out and kind of give you the explanation that I've got from BMW. Another fun fact, it's the roundel on the hood. You can actually push down on it, it will lift up, and that will give you the option to fill it with washing fluid for your windshield. Also at the front you have this kind of like an expel film. It's made by BMW on top of the grille. So it's a self-healing grille. That's what BMW calls it. So if you're getting any scratches from, you know, rocks on the road or anything that's minor, under heat, either the sun, or if you're using a hair blower, then basically you can use that and it will heal itself. Quite nifty. Same thing goes for the BMW badge in the back on the boot. It actually comes out, and that's going to be used to spray the fluid to clean the rear windshield as well. So very, very interesting and nifty feature, and I just love seeing that. You already seen the introduction with the sunroof here, which has a shading technology that you can, with the push of a button here, you can adjust the opacity of that. As far as the tech overall, there are a lot of USB-C ports in the car. I haven't counted all of them, but I found quite a few. And actually one of them is extremely useful because as I'm filming right now, I was able to plug my GoPro camera in the back of the headrest where there are 2 USB-Cs. So now I'm actually getting, you know, continuous power to the camera, so it's not going to turn off. And at the same time, you're not able to see the cable because it runs, you know, by the door and behind the chair. So I get a clear view here versus having some wires running around. So from my point of view, for being able to do my job, that's actually kind of cool. I mentioned earlier in integration with Apple, so you can bring an Android too. You can bring your Apple's apps onto the screen here, so you can use Waze, for example, if you want to. It also has the UWB, which is the ultra wide band, fancy name for this new tech. It's in the 5 Series, I believe, also. And basically it replaces, not replaces, but it works aside NFC. So as soon as you get close to your car, it will open the doors, it will adjust the seats based on your My ID. It's kind of like your car profile. So that's kind of cool. You don't need a physical key. Actually, don't even have a key. This is the only thing that I have here. It's a phone. And basically that's how I unlock and lock the car. I open the trunk and a bunch of other features as well. So very, very high tech. I'm assuming nothing new. Some other car companies do this, but I think BMW is the first one to have a ultra wideband integration for now. In my opinion, I believe it will be a great seller for the brand. it will do quite well, especially if they're managed to bring the entry model to the US as well in the future. For now, only the xDrive50 and M60 are scheduled to be sold there, but I do have a feeling that, in the further down the line, they will bring that xDrive40, which is probably a good package for an entry-level car or for someone that wants to get into an electric BMW. Of course, you have the i4, which I will be driving again tomorrow. It is a completely different car. It's built on a shared platform, and I can talk about that and what's kind of different from the iX. Personally, I do enjoy this car quite a bit. It is a lot more expensive, but if I would have the money, I would definitely pick this one just because of its philosophy and everything that it has behind it. But again, two separate products, probably two different demographics, and there is not much overlap there. With that being said, this is the BMW iX. I will try to get some 0 to 60 times. I know some of you care about that. I'm actually extremely curious if it's a lot faster than BMW claims. It's just a fun tidbit that we usually do. So there will be a follow-up video on that. I will also have another chat with BMW experts. So I will bring you more news regarding different components in the car. And if you have any questions, as always, you can leave them in the comments below. I do encourage you to please subscribe to our channel. It helps us quite a bit. We're trying to grow even more. We're trying to do more test drives. A lot of you are watching our videos but are not subscribed. Actually, quite a lot of you. So I would appreciate it if you could, hit that subscribe button, the notification bell, and also leave a comment, down below. Actually, I'm interested to hear what you think about the car. Aside from the design of the kidney grille, which I did not even want to get into it because we've talked about so many times before and there are a lot of videos that we published. But what do you think about this new BMW iX? Is this a good product? Do you feel like it has a future in the BMW brand? And is this a car that you would be interested in if money no object? So as always, I would like to thank you for your support, and I hope to chat with you soon through the comments, and stay tuned for a lot more videos coming up. I'll see you soon. Bye.